and welcome to WishwaTalks. My name is Trishant, and I thank you all for attending today's event. For those of you who have attended a WishwaTalk before, a warm welcome back. And for those of you who are joining us for the first time, here's a little bit about us. WishwaTalks is a space to expand the horizons of your mind. Every webinar, we call experts from different domains to discuss and examine opinions, issues, problems, and perspectives. Each webinar is an interactive session where we walk away with more respect for each other and a deeper understanding of the topic at hand. If you miss a session, please visit our website or YouTube channel for a full library of past Whisper Talks on interesting topics. Ladies and gentlemen, esteemed attendees, it is my privilege to introduce our distinguished keynote speaker for today's Whisper Talk. Dr. Sandeep Kondepi is a renowned consultant psychiatrist and de-addiction specialist with a remarkable academic and professional background. He holds an MBBS from SVS Medical College and Hospitals and pursued his MD in psychiatry at Narayana Medical College and Hospitals. Dr. Kondepi's dedication to his field is evident through his extensive training, including courses at National Institute of Mental Health and Neurosciences and AIMS, Delhi. Currently serving as a consultant psychiatrist at Asha Hospitals and TX Hospitals, Banjara Hills, Dr. Kondepi plays a pivotal role as the in charge of Asha De-Addiction Center, Jubilee Hills. His expertise in neuromodulation and addiction management has made him an invaluable asset to the medical community. We are honored to have him as our speaker today. Please join me in welcoming Dr. Sandeep Kondepi to share his insights and knowledge with us. Before we get started, I would like to inform our audience that our speaker will be taking questions from you after our main talk. So please leave your questions in the chat or raise a hand, use the raise hand tool, and we will allow you to ask your question in person. I request everyone to turn on your webcams during the interactive part of the webinar. Now, without further ado, I invite our speaker to begin today's Whisper Talk.
Hi. Thank you for the warm introduction, Trishant, and it's a great opportunity for me because I love this topic, addictions, and there's a lot of awareness needed in the society. Everyone should know exactly what's happening with addiction and what is addiction. So, good morning, everyone. So, I'll just start my screen sharing. Am I audible?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir, you.
Yeah. So today's topic is addiction, whether it's a brain disease or a choice, right? So when it comes to addiction, it's a chronic disease and a relapsing disease. Chronic in the sense it is long-standing disease, and relapse as you take diabetes and hypertension, where relapse is very common, where you get uncontrolled diabetes on and off, even though after using medication. So the same way, this is a relapsing disease, but definitely a treatable disease, and it is considered as a brain disease. The last 75 years of neuroscience now definitely says that addiction is considered as a brain disease. So it's a chronic, relapsing, treatable brain disease. The definition is, it is a compulsive substance use. It can be a substance or a behavior, compulsive behavior, irrespective of its consequences. So definition is very simple. There is a compulsive use, irrespective of the consequences, you use the substance or do the behavior. 1 second. Yeah, this is fine. So when it comes to criteria of addiction, these are the 3, 4, 5, 6 criteria which is defined throughout the world. So if you take tolerance in the sense, this you'll understand at the end of the meeting, end of the seminar. You'll understand the core meaning of these words. I'll give a gist now. So if you take tolerance is nothing but you increase the quantity of the substance or time in the behavior as time goes on. So you increase the quantity. You start with a minimal quantity, but you increase the quantity and frequency gradually. Withdrawal meaning is whenever you try to reduce the quantity, or you stop the substance suddenly, or when the level of the drug or substance is coming down in the brain, you will have uncomfortable symptoms. These are called withdrawal symptoms. Craving is a severe urge, as after few days after starting the substance, you'll have the severe urge to take the substance. That is craving. When it comes to salience, salience is nothing but you make it as a priority. You're now, see, if your life has a lot of priorities like job, shelter, family, food, diet, adequate activities of daily living. All these are my priorities now. But once a substance or addiction enters into your life, you make addiction as your priority. The substance will become the priority in your life. That is salience. And loss of control. There is no control. So it is not in your control. People says that you stop drinking. Why are you drinking? He doesn't have willpower. He doesn't have motivation. But he's not in that way. He will lose the control in the brain. So the last point is irrespective of harm. Even though the person knows that the substance is harming his life, I mean his social, family, occupational, personal life, even though he can't stop it, irrespective of that harm, he will use it. So this is the criteria. By the end of the presentation, you'll understand the core meaning of these words. So first, the theories of addiction started like this. They said that whoever is not drinking, they're good, and whoever they're drinking, they're bad. So it went as good and bad. Next came the legal versus illegal. Is my voice audible? Is everything clear?
I think it's cutting in between a little bit, but it's not cut any content yet.
Okay. So it's like first they considered addiction as good or bad, whether the people who don't drink are good and people who drink are bad. It is differentiated between legal and illegal. So it involved the criminal thing. Next came the morals and ethics. The person who drinks doesn't have morals. He doesn't have ethics. Next came it is his own choice. It is related to the willpower or motivation. If you have willpower, you can stop. If you don't have willpower, you cannot stop. He's not motivated. He's motivated. So they differentiated in that way. So next, they differentiated through his personality. If at all someone is drinking, they consider his personality is in that way. He drinks, he will not listen. So they considered it as a personality disorder. So next, little bit of evidence then they started taking the social and environmental theory. The social and environmental theory suggests that how is your culture, how is your childhood background, how is your environment during your childhood. So it might be peer pressure, family problems, substance use in the family, parenting issues. Culture is accepting the substance use, that people in all other in the family or in the culture, it is socially acceptable. There is a childhood adverse events like loss, poverty, violence, abuse, adverse childhood events. So anything which is related to his environment is causing him to use the substance. This was the theory. And next came the psychological theory. The psychological theory suggests that we are all born with some personality. Okay, we are all born with some personality. Whether we are born as an externalizing trait, or we are born with internalizing traits. Externalizing traits is nothing but these traits. We are all born with these traits, either externalizing or internalizing or mixed. So if you go with externalizing traits, these children have hyperactivity. They are socially active. They are not anxious. They don't have stage fear. They can express. They can talk. They can move around. And these people are more interested in experimenting. So they try the substance as an experiment, and they love that high from the substance or the behavior. When you go to the opposite side, if you take internalizing traits in the sense, these children are born with traits of anxiety, low self-confidence, decreased social interactions. They are shy, reserved, calm. So these people try substance to reduce their anxiety. So if at all in childhood I have lot of social anxiety, I can't express. So I feel that if I join in that group who are drinking, so they will accept me socially. And people say that if you drink, you will lose the inhibition so that I can talk in a better way. So these internalizing traits will drink to reduce the anxiety. Externalizing traits, children will try for the high and they are experimental. So this theory says that we are all born with some traits and personality temperaments. With that, you try the substance. So how you respond to stress, how you respond to pleasure, how you control the impulse. Now, impulse control traits are being there's a lot of research for impulse control traits, because now they consider addiction as impulsivity and compulsivity disorder. Like there is an impulse to take, and once it becomes a compulsion, you can't control the compulsion. So, and also delaying the gratification. The people who are born with this temperament, who are able to delay the gratification, there is a less tendency for them to become an addict. Because in addiction, you need the immediate gratification. Now, I want it now. But if there is a temperament that you can delay the gratification, there is a less chance to become addict. So this is a social theory and the psychological theory. So next came the advanced last 50 years of neuroscience said that, so there is a genetical component also. So if you see on the left hand side, there hypertension, diabetes, there is 25. See, 0.25 in the sense, it is 25%. 0.5 is 50%. So in hypertension, hereditary. So you can pass the genes of hypertension or diabetes 25 to 50%. The same way, if you take
So
am I audible?
your voice is breaking a bit. I think the network is a bit. Yeah, it's fine.
Now it's okay.
Yes.
Yeah, okay. So they say that now if you see on the left hand side, these are the general disorders, hypertension and diabetes. If you see on the right hand side, these are the substance use disorders. So definitely now they consider addiction as there is a component of genetic heritability. If you see alcohol, there is a 50% chance. If you see, 1 second. Now is it okay?
Yes, sir. The audio is clear. Not a problem.
Yeah. So there's a heritability chance in alcohol 50%, and cigarette it is 60%. So they say that monozygotic twins, that is the twins who are born from the same zygote, there is a high chance of inheritability or genetic heritability than the dizygotic twins. So finally, they told morals, willpower, social theory, environmental factors, psychological theory, externalizing, internalizing traits, genetical heritability, and finally they consider all these things are happening anyways, but finally brain disease. So this seminar today in this PPT, we will prove that addiction is a brain disease. I'll make you understand that addiction is definitely a brain disease. So they say that there are biological factors, psychological factors, social factors, environmental factors. Biological in the sense, the genetical factors. See, for example, I have the gene, my father passed me the gene. I have some psychological stress. And social factors, I have peer pressure. I am from a good socioeconomic status, and my culture accepts alcohol, and I have access to alcohol. All these are biological, psychological, and social factors. Now I used it. Once I use it, so for the use, all the biological, psychological, social factors are acting like risk factors. Once I have the risk factors, once I use, I will make some changes in the brain, definitely in the brain. That's why it's considered as a brain disease. And once the changes comes in the brain, I'll move into addiction. So if you see, so to prove that addiction is as a brain disease, I need to tell, so the brain is the organ, what is the defect, what are the symptoms, and what is the proof. Now in this PPT, I'll show you all the changes which happens in addiction in the brain. So this is a rough diagram. I'm very poor in drawing, so this is a rough diagram but it's for a clear understanding. This is the half lobe. It's a section of the brain. So you consider this is a right half or left half. It's your choice. So the front part, the FL is the frontal lobe. Okay, the front part is the frontal lobe, and we have frontal lobe and we have a lobe in the center. This is called central lobe. Okay, so we have frontal lobe and central lobe. Front one is the frontal lobe, center one is the central lobe. The central lobe is a space for survival, for dopamine, for reward, for pleasure. The frontal lobe is for self, personality, learning, ethics, motivation, your education, love, society, everything. Everything, your self and personality comes from the frontal lobe. Survival and dopamine reward pathway comes in the central lobe. So if you see the diagram, there's a place called A. So this is a place from A to B. It is called the mesolimbic pathway. It is a pleasure pathway. It is present in you, in me, and everyone. So this mesolimbic pathway, if the natural rewards like food, water, sex, sleep, your routine, your favorites, your habits, everything acts on A. So when it acts on A, it will increase a neurochemical called dopamine in B. Once the neurochemical dopamine increases, the brain loves that chemical. So whenever there is an increase in dopamine in B, the brain says you repeat that activity. So for example, if I like KFC, when I eat, the KFC acts on A, it increases a chemical dopamine in B. So the brain loves it. So I will love KFC. So I will try to repeat eating KFC. So that is how we form the habit.
Hello, sir.
I
We
think still
seem
my
to
audio
have
is
lost
not
audio.
audible, or I should
Yeah,
change
your
the
audio just
position.
got cut out. Could you center the screen a little bit again, please? Your background is, yeah, thanks.
Yeah. So if there is any
Yeah.
hitch in the audio, I'll change my position.
This is fine now.
This is
the
fine?
network is fine again. Yes, sir.
Network is fine. So yeah, so the natural rewards act on the mesolimbic pathway. Alcohol, drugs, smoking acts on the mesolimbic pathway. Alcohol, drugs, smoking acts on the mesolimbic pathway. So I will show you. But the difference between the drugs and alcohol and the natural reward is very simple. Food, water, sex, sleep, routines, favorites, habits, or whatever you like will increase dopamine to some amount. For example, 50 units. But alcohol, smoking, drug will give a surge of dopamine in your brain at least 10 to even 100 times of dopamine, depending upon the drug. So there is a huge surge of dopamine in your brain with alcohol, drugs, and smoking. But the pathway is same for the natural rewards and even for the alcohol. So the first evidence is any drug of abuse will increase a chemical called dopamine. So this is the first law. This is happening inside the brain in the central lobe. That is the point you should understand. So dopamine is a chemical of reward, pleasure, motivation, and also movement. So in this diagram, you can see the natural rewards like food, sex, and excitement are releasing only some amount of dopamine. But on the right-hand side, you see there is a surge of dopamine. There's a lot hyperactivation of dopamine with the addictive drugs. So addiction is nothing but first thing is all drugs of abuse increase dopamine. It is hyperactivity of the dopamine. All drugs of abuse increase dopamine. It is hyperactivity of the dopamine. And this dopamine is for more time in the pathway. And it increases very fast. And it is a high surge. That is the difference between natural rewards and addiction. So once there is a surge, brain loves dopamine. Now you have many activities in your life which increases dopamine. For example, I have coffee, I have KFC, I have iPhone, I'm a doctor, I do my job, I play with my pet. I have lot of things where my dopamine rises. Okay. But once I use the drug or start smoking or alcohol, brain starts to search the thing or behavior from which it is getting the highest dopamine. So if I start Johnny Walker once in my life, now the brain understands Johnny Walker is giving me a surge of dopamine, and now the brain will catch it. So I'm getting the highest dopamine from Johnny Walker. So once it identifies the thing from which it is getting the highest dopamine, it will ask you to repeat the same thing again and again, or the same behavior again and again. So this is a dopamine chart. In this dopamine chart, you see KFC, iPhone, my blue color, attire, my self-care, car, music, sports, friends, pets, job, family, sex, coffee. All these are natural rewards. All these are acting on the same pathway, mesolimbic pathway. The chemical is same. The chemical is dopamine. But the only difference is you see on the right hand side, alcohol, smoking, drugs, cannabis are giving 10 to they're giving loads of dopamine, more than 1,000, more than 500, more than 300 when compared to your natural rewards. So in our natural rewards, sex is the highest dopamine, which goes around 100. These are just temporary values. These are not the concrete values. Even if you take smoking, it is 2 times more than participating in sex. So there is a surge of dopamine with the drugs of abuse and the behavior. It's not only drug of abuse. Even if you gamble, even if you gamble, even you're having the internet addiction, phone addiction, the excitement you have with the phone gives the surge of dopamine. Immediately you open the Insta reel, you have that exciting news, you see the Twitter news, and that excitement gives you dopamine. So the next thing what happens is, you understood that one is dopamine is increasing, it is hyperactivating. And the next thing is, once you're getting once you're getting a lot of dopamine from drugs or gambling or something else, the dopamine level from all other things will come down. If you see the next chart, after a few days, this was Dr. Sandeep 5 years back. This is Dr. Sandeep on the KFC, my attire, self-care, sports, sex, family, job, everything has come down. Because I'm repeatedly using alcohol and smoking, and brain understands I'm getting the highest dopamine from this. So it is targeting only alcohol, smoking, and drugs. So I will lose interest in all my activities. I'll lose interest in family, I'll lose interest in job, I'll lose interest in pets, friends, sports, music, everything. Because the
Hello, sir. Hello, sir. I seem to have lost audio and video. So you can switching off the video. Yes. Yes. Hello, sir. You're still not audible.
yeah,
Yep.
give me 1 second.
Sure. Would you like us to share the screen with the PPT? I request everyone to please be patient and stay seated. We are facing a few technical difficulties. So,
Yeah, am I audible now?
yes, sir, you're audible. Should we share the screen?
I think
You want us
I'll
to share the PPT? That will give you more speed.
and I'm doing it. Is
Oh, yeah.
am I audible now?
Yes, sir, you're audible.
Yeah, sorry. Sorry, there was some internet error. Okay. I think now my audio will be clear. Okay.
Loud and
So
clear.
to continue, yeah. Now to continue, as I was telling, the first thing which is happening in the brain is the dopamine hyperactivity.
Apologies for the technical errors.
I think it's better you share the PPT.
Sure, sir, we'll share the PPT.
Yeah, that would be better.
So, is this the right slide?
Yeah, this is the right slide. Is my voice audible now?
Yes, sir. It's clear.
Yeah. So sorry, I'm extremely sorry for the internet error. Internet connectivity. I'm really sorry. So just I
Not a
want to
problem.
just summarize. Its first point is any drug of abuse will hyperactivate dopamine in the central lobe. Second point is it will hijack the natural rewards. The dopamine from the natural rewards will come down, and the dopamine only with the drugs, as drugs and alcohol, as it is 10 to 100 times more, it will hijack the natural rewards. So the third thing which happens in the brain is, next slide. So this is tolerance. So after hyperactivity of the dopamine and hijacking the natural reward, the third change in the brain is tolerance. So if Dr. Sandeep starts, like for example, 5 years back, I started alcohol with 90 ml. 90 ml of Johnny Walker. It's not only alcohol. I'm just giving an example. It can be cannabis, it can be drug, it can be cocaine, it may be meth, anything. So 90 ml. So after few days, I drink 90 ml. There is some neuroadaptive changes in the brain. The 3 receptors which you see in the first image of the brain will become 6 receptors. The brain identifies that I'm getting the highest dopamine from this substance. So it will increase the receptors for alcohol, if it is alcohol. So once the receptors for alcohol increases in the brain, you need more amount of substance to get the previous kick. So with the 90 ml, once it increases to 6 receptors, I'll not get the same kick or I'll not get the same pleasure. So unconsciously, I will increase the quantity of alcohol or the substance on that day, and I'll make it 180 ml. So if you take as a series, like after 3 months or 6 months, if I drink 180 ml, the 6 receptors again will become 9 receptors. So once it becomes 9 receptors, I'll make it 90 plus 180. After 9, it becomes 12, I make it 360. After then, it becomes 16 or 15, it becomes 450. So as the receptors increase, I increase the quantity and frequency. This is called tolerance, and this is not in our hand. The change happens in the brain. I'll not intentionally drink half bottle and I'll not sleep. It is the brain which is making me drink. So the next slide. So this is the diagram. If you see the brain, there are multiple receptors. Initially, there are only few receptors. Once the tolerance develops, there are multiple receptors for the drug. So once the receptors increase, I increase the quantity and I'll increase the frequency. Next slide. So once I increase the quantity and frequency, now all the receptors, now from 3 receptors, I came to 30 receptors, Samjo. I came to 30 receptors. Now, once the 30 receptors are occupied with the drug, whenever I try to stop the drug or the substance, or I reduce the quantity, or if, so for example, if the level of the drug is getting dropped from the receptors, for example, I have drunk half bottle in the night. Next day morning, I woke up. The alcohol which I drank is getting metabolized in the liver, coming out of my sweat, coming out of urine. So all the level in my brain is coming down. So the receptors are getting unoccupied now. Once the receptors are getting unoccupied, they become hyperactive. So for a small example, if I have a dog in my house, I'm feeding it with chicken every day. Chicken every day, chicken every day, chicken every day. Suddenly I didn't give the chicken. I didn't give the meat. So what the dog will do, it will start barking, it will shout, it will not eat food, right? The same with the brain. Every day I'm drinking alcohol. One day I'm not drinking alcohol. The brain becomes hyperactive. So this hyperactive is called withdrawal symptoms. So withdrawal symptoms are different from different drugs, like tremors, sweating, restlessness, anxiety, increased heart rate, dryness of mouth, irritability, anger, becoming dull, lonely, decreased concentration, decreased hunger, decreased sleep, feeling incomplete, feeling uneasy, headaches, body pains, and intense craving. So now when this withdrawal symptoms are very horrible, uncomfortable, and painful for me, so what should I do? I should, to reduce this withdrawal symptoms, usually, next slide. So this common withdrawal symptoms and very painful, next slide. So to reduce this withdrawal symptoms, I drink again. So morning, I again have the same puff of cigarette or the joint, weed or alcohol to reduce this withdrawal symptoms. The first, I was drinking because the receptors were increasing. Now I'm drinking to reduce the withdrawal symptoms. So in the morning, I wake up, I feel restless, anxiety, tremors, headache, unable to concentrate. I don't feel like motivated to go to the hospital also. But if I have one peg, again, I'm freshen up. I'll go because all the receptors, see the previous diagram. You go to the previous slide. So in this central lobe, you see all the receptors are hyperactive during the withdrawal symptoms. You go to the next slide, the second one. Yeah. Now in this you see the receptors again calm down because I had 90 ml of alcohol. So any person who is into addiction or substance use, first they'll increase the substance, then the withdrawal symptoms will start. First I'll drink for the high and the quantity and the receptors will increase. Next I'll drink to reduce the withdrawal symptoms. So the positive reinforcement is converting into negative reinforcement after a few days. Okay, next slide. So this is how. So tolerance, I drink more, receptors increase, I again drink more. Now to reduce the substance, or whenever I stop, I am having uncomfortable withdrawal symptoms. Once uncomfortable withdrawal symptoms, to reduce the withdrawal symptoms, I drink again, receptors increase, I drink more, again I get more withdrawals. To reduce the withdrawals, again I should drink, again I drink, receptors fail. So this becomes a trap. Now, Dr. Sandeep got trapped in the tolerance and withdrawal cycle. People say you stop drinking immediately. But if I stop, I'm having uncomfortable withdrawal symptoms. How can I stop it? Who is there to help me out? There's no answer. I have to drink. Then only I'll be active. So next slide. So this is how, this is the next law. So first law is hyperactivity. Second is hijacking the natural reward. Next is tolerance. Next is withdrawal. The fifth one is, see, if you see on the left-hand side, the natural rewards like KFC, my coffee, my job, everything has a small surge. So when there is a small surge, there is no problem. When there is a high surge, when I'm having Johnny Walker, there is a 500 unit of surge in dopamine. Whenever there is a high surge, the dopamine will send a signal to the brain. You're utilizing more dopamine. So you have to produce dopamine again. So to produce dopamine again, the brain sends a signal. So the next day, after drinking Johnny Walker, next day, the dopamine falls down. The brain intentionally makes the dopamine low, giving a signal that you have to produce dopamine now. Okay, so this dip, so every high rise, not the normal natural rewards will not have this dip. Will have the dip, but not significant dip. But the drug, when it is having that high rise, it will definitely have the low dip also. Once there is a low dip, this is called craving. So whenever I drink, the next few days, I will have the intense urge to drink again because there is low dopamine in my brain. Once there is low dopamine in my brain, I'll be dull, lethargic, withdrawal symptoms, headache, craving, uncomfortable, no concentration, everything comes up. So even with the withdrawal symptoms I drink, even with this low dopamine, once I have low dopamine, what should I do? The only thing which gives me dopamine is Johnny Walker. So again, I drink. So for to compensate the withdrawal symptoms and also to compensate this low dopamine, I drink again and again. Next slide. So this is the pleasure and pain balance in our brain. This is also happening in brain. So as time goes on, the pleasure which I'm getting from alcohol or substance use will slowly decrease, because the brain gets adapted, so it can't get the same dopamine level as I'm getting with the first drink which I drank with my friend in the pub. Now after 5 years, I'm not getting the same pleasure because the dopamine is falling down as time goes on. As dopamine is falling down, the brain sends more intense signals and more intense dip that your dopamine is falling down. You produce more dopamine. So to produce more dopamine, I need more dip. Once there is more dip, I'll feel more depressed. So if you see a person in addiction, they start with pleasure, they end with pain. The pleasure comes down, the pain increases. Next slide. So this is how, if you see the baseline, there is one middle, one black line. This is the baseline. This is the normal dopamine threshold. Anything which is above that is pleasureful. Anything below that is misery, which is depressed. So now I started Johnny Walker. Everything was pleasureful. After a few years, the pleasure curve has come down and it has entered the misery curve. First, I was drinking for pleasure. Now I'm drinking to avoid this misery. Okay, next slide. So this is the most important change. So now you understood the hyperactivity, hijacking the reward pathway, tolerance, withdrawal, the dips of dopamine, the craving of dopamine, the pain is increasing, pleasure is decreasing, the positive reinforcement is converting into negative reinforcement. All these things are happening in brain. But now this is a new thing which happens in the brain. If you see the frontal lobe, I told frontal lobe is for self, personality, learning, education, are good, bad, risk, harmful, rights, law, morals, ethics, decision making, impulse control, reasoning, planning, judgment, everything except for the dopamine, reward, and survival. All other things are from the frontal lobe. The frontal lobe, the front lobe, is the main lobe which guides you, where is your decision making capacity. It is you. If Dr. Sandeep is sitting today, myself and my personality is frontal lobe. The central lobe is only for survival. So usually the central lobe for survival, God made this lobe only for the natural rewards, like for example food, water, sex, sleep, family, or my shelter. The God has made the central lobe only for the natural rewards. But what I did, along with the natural rewards, I started hyperactivating the central lobe. Once I am hyperactivating the central lobe for dopamine, my activity in the frontal lobe comes down. It's like a seesaw. When the weight in the central lobe is increasing, the weight in the frontal lobe decreases. So the activity in the frontal lobe decreases, activity in the central lobe increases. This is proved in the PET scans and also in the fMRIs. If you take an addiction brain, the activity in the central lobe is very high because I'm hyperactivating dopamine. The activity in the frontal lobe is very low. So if you see the next slide. So in this diagram, you can see As I started alcohol, smoking, drugs, my activity in the central lobe is very high, but the activity in the frontal lobe has come down. So once the frontal lobe activity comes down, my frontal lobe activity, previous slide. You see on the left-hand side, the functions of my frontal lobe are huge and immense. It's everything about Dr. Sandeep. It's my right, law, morals, ethics, decision, impulse, everything is on the frontal lobe. But once the frontal lobe activity comes down, I drink irrespective of harm, I take risks, take risks, I lose control, and I do anything. I lie, I manipulate everything. So you go to the next slide. Next slide. So this is one example. So for example, if whoever is in the seminar, if at all you are left in one desert, after 5 days, you got dehydrated, you're very thirsty, hungry, sweating, heat, humidity, everything. After 5 days, next slide. You have seen one bottle. So you will drink water. If the God comes and says, if at all you drink water, you'll not have home, you'll not have your job, you'll not have your family. You will drink the water or you'll not drink. Next slide. Everyone will drink the water, because first is survival for any human being. It's not your job, it's not your house, it's not your family, it's not your friends, anything. When the survival lobe needs something, it needs it. That's it. Everybody will first drink water, because first you need the survival, then you'll think about your family and everything. So in addiction, the central lobe is survival, right? Now in addiction, what happens is alcohol. Now the survival was food, sex, water, sleep, shelter first. But now it got replaced with alcohol, because you're activating the central lobe with alcohol. Now for a person who is addicted to alcohol, survival becomes alcohol. So that is the intense urge. You say it is very easy to stop, but it is his survival. So punishment will not stop addictions. If you punish him, it is my survival. You punish me, I need to survive. I take the punishment and I drink. So next slide. So this is how in addiction, the survival, the central lobe is hijacked, and the food, water, natural rewards are replaced by alcohol and drug, and this becomes survival for him. If that is not there, he feels that I'm incomplete, I'm not a human being, I will die in the next minute. The sip of water which everyone drank in the desert is the same thing an addict will have, that urge to drink alcohol. Next slide. So this is the another concept. Now you see an orange part, a small ball, which is called amygdala in your brain, and you see the violet purplish thing, which is hippocampus in your brain. So whenever I drink alcohol now, the emotion is registered in amygdala, the memory is registered in hippocampus. So once it gets registered in addiction, whenever, see, for example, I'm drinking with happiness, or I'm drinking when I'm feeling bored, and the memory where I drank, the place, person, thing is registered in the brain. So even I stop alcohol, I go to that place, and if I have the same emotion, if I'm stressful, and I go to the same place, the triggers, the cue will cause that craving and that urge. So it is not that easy. Even small things in addiction are very important. The place, person, time, thing, triggers, cues, your external, internal triggers, everything is important, because everything is registered in your brain itself. Next slide. So this is another concept which happens in the brain. So you take A is one person, B is one person. So you consider A as Trishant, B as Dr. Sandeep. So Trishant is born with a dopamine threshold of 50. I am born with a dopamine threshold of 100. Okay. If you see on the top, yellow drug, yellow is a drug, for example, cocaine or meth, which is pleasurable for Trishant and also Dr. Sandeep, because it is above 100. It is above the dopamine threshold. And the drug brown, which is below below Dr. Sandeep's threshold, below B, Now, this is not pleasureful to me. So I will not get addicted to brown drug. But Trishant, it is above 50. It is above his threshold. So he has a high chance of getting addicted even to the brown. So this is how brain decides what to like, what it should dislike. So this happens in the brain. This is called dopamine threshold. We are all born with some threshold, and this decides which drug you like, which addiction you like. Next slide. And also a concept of people who start early, before 18 years, have 6.5 times risk to go into addiction than the people who start later. This is because your brain, every addiction is everything related to brain. So the psychological factors, the biological, genetic, environmental plays a role, but it is happening in your brain. Because the teen brain is still developing, the teen brain has excitement to do many things. In the teen brain, there is a lot of hormonal change. And the teen brain, as I said, if they start using the drug is impacting the brain changes, and this changes becomes permanent, and they have high chance to get addicted. Next slide. So I think I completed the brain concept. Now I'll revise. So dopamine is the dopamine is the chemical of reward, the pleasure. The brain loves it. In the drug, there is high dopamine, fast dopamine, more time of dopamine. And the natural rewards and drug acts on the same part in the central lobe, but you're hijacking this natural rewards in addiction. Dopamine on the natural rewards comes down. Then the tolerance develops, the receptors increase, I increase the quantity. Once the quantity is coming down, the receptors are hyperactive, I'm getting withdrawal symptoms, I'm getting restless. To reduce the withdrawal symptoms, first I drink to excitement, then I drink to reduce the withdrawal symptoms. I'm going into a tolerance withdrawal trap. The positive reinforcement is converting into negative reinforcement. Next slide. The craving, as I said, when there is a high rise, there is a low dip. Once there is a low dip, I feel low and I have craving. Everyone starts with pleasure, ends with pain. The pleasure comes down, pain increases. I drink to control the withdrawal symptoms. I drink to control my depression. I said the frontal lobe and the central lobe. Central lobe is for survival. Central lobe is for survival and reward and dopamine. Frontal lobe is everything apart from that. Your life, your society, your family. But the activity of the frontal lobe comes down because you're hyperactivating the central lobe. Once the activity in the frontal lobe comes down, you take risk, you tell lies, your personality change, your behavior change. There is no judgment, there is no decision-making capacity. I also told cue conditioning. Your brain, amygdala, conditions the emotion when you drink. The hippocampus takes the memory and is stored as a hard disk. Whenever even you stop drinking, this hard disk, whenever you see the place, it will trigger. And also I told about the dopamine threshold. Everyone is born with some dopamine threshold in the brain, which will make you decide which to like, which to dislike. Your young brains are high chance of addiction because there are growing brains. Next slide. So this is the last diagram. So in this, you can see my graphs, Dr. Sandeep graph in the leftmost side. I started as an enjoyment. First, I started as an experiment. Everyone experiments it. Then I use it occasionally. O is occasional. Next, E is I'm enjoying it. I have a phase of enjoyment. Everybody enjoys your drug. Everybody enjoys alcohol. Everybody enjoys cannabis. No doubt in that. Next comes tolerance. Here I'm entering the addiction cycle. The tolerance, the receptors are increasing, I'm increasing the quantity. Next comes withdrawal. The receptors become hyperactive, I'm getting withdrawal symptoms. Next comes the pleasure is decreasing, the pain is increasing. Next comes I'm decreasing the frontal lobe activity, I'm increasing the central lobe activity. And you remember, central lobe is for survival. Once I hijack it, my alcohol becomes my survival. Then I'll have a dip in my addiction curve. Once I have a dip, I'll have problems in family, society, trust, self, job, money, behavior, personality, relations, risk, respect, depression, alone, everything. I'm down. Now, when I'm down, I drink more. Once I drink more, irrespective of harm, I'm drinking because I have a reduced frontal lobe activity. Now I land up in things like hospital crime, accident, mental issues, suicide, health, seizures, and death, which are very, very common in addictions. Next slide. So now this criteria, if you see, you can just, everyone of this seminar can just answer this. Tolerance, withdrawal happening in brain, craving happening in brain, salience, hijacking of the natural reward. So I'm making alcohol as my priority. Loss of control, my frontal lobe activity has come down. Irrespective of harm I'm drinking it, the frontal lobe activity is coming down. So everything happening in brain. Next slide. So if you take diabetes, and I'm about to complete, just give me just 5 minutes, I'll just close it. Okay, so if you take diabetes and hypertension, now diabetes is considered as the #1 disease throughout the world. Yes or no? Yes, right? So diabetes has genetics, diabetes has stress, diabetes has risk factors like obesity, diet, and exercise, right? The same way, if you take addiction, has genetics, stress, there are some risk factors like access, peer pressure, and my personality, externalizing, internalizing traits. So what is the difference? I don't know. They consider diabetes as a serious illness, addiction is stopped with stigma, and there's no awareness at all. Next slide. So 90% of the addictions now currently are untreated. So there should be a lot of awareness in the society. 90% of the cases are getting untreated. And the vice versa, if you go to the next slide. As I said, addiction is same thing as diabetes and hypertension. They are both are chronic disorders. No, previous slide. Both diabetes, hypertension, addiction are chronic disorders. There are many similarities. Both are long-standing disorders. All the three are relapsing disorders. If, for example, diabetes is from pancreas, addiction is from brain. That's the difference. But 90% of the diabetes is the people are getting treated, but addiction is ignored. Next slide. Even if you see the heart disease, there are some brain scans. Your leftmost side is a healthy brain. In the next diagram, there is a decrease in activity, metabolism in addict. The same thing is happening. You see in 2D echo and PET scans and all things, there is a decrease in activity of the heart. But you appreciate heart disease, but you're not appreciating the brain disease on the other hand. Next slide. So even see relapse rates, people say that addiction, they get treated, they relapse, there is no use of treatment. Why to take treatment? Anyways, he will drink after coming home. So people now, out of 5 people, 3 are diabetic, right? They're using medications. How many times you had uncontrolled sugar levels in the morning? It's very common, right? Relapse is common in our life. See, I every day morning, I wake up, I do exercise. And after a few days, I skip exercise. I eat KFC. I eat everything. I eat bawarchi. I'll become lazy. I'll not go to my gym. This is common for everyone, right? So relapse is common in everyone. Relapse is common in every disease. Relapse is common in addiction. Next slide. So mice, as we saw, social theory, psychological theory, mice have no morals. There's no God, sociopath, no bad parents, no mouse gangs. But even if you take a mouse in laboratory and test it, once you give a drug to a mice, or there is a hyperactivity of dopamine in the central lobe, and they become addicted to the same drug, and they press the liver in the lab for the same drug. Even the rat asks for the drug. So it's not just the psychological theory, it's not the social, everything included. So now addiction is considered as a bio-psycho-social model. Everything comes, you try the drug, changes in the brain, and then you land up in addiction. Next slide. So you should break the stigma, consider addiction as a brain disease, as a medical disease. There is advanced treatments. So we have to break the stigma, create awareness, and there's a lot of now there are advanced treatments. I can discuss when the questions comes about the treatment part. Next slide. And thank you. So changing the ways we think about addiction is very important now, because it's definitely treatable. It's a brain disease. It's similar like diabetes and hypertension. If you get treated, the success rate is very high. There's a lot of support and help for addiction. It is just you break the stigma, just step forward, meet us, we'll explain you everything. Right. Thank you, Trishan. Thank you, Trishan. Sorry, once again, I'm really sorry for the technical glitch and the internet errors. And I think finally I gave some gist. You understood something.
So that was a wonderful presentation. There's so many testimonials. The whole chat box is filled up with a lot of thank you messages. Uh, Sir, I'd like to call upon our founder, Ms.
Yeah,
Shrivani Mulapudi, to initiate the Q&A and take it forward.
yeah, yeah.
Namaste.
Namaste, ma'am.
Wonderful session.
Thank you, ma'am.
First, I would like to ask, before we move into the question and answer session, I would now like to request the audience to take a 30 seconds to answer a poll for us. The purpose of this poll is to help us understand you a little better so that we can better curate the topics we get for you. As actually speaking, this de-addiction topic has been a request from one of the participants when we were doing the Montessori session. So please do please do enter your survey. You can also let us know in the chat box how you found out about WishwaTalks. If you are a WishwaTalk subscriber, heard about it through friends or family, or found out about the event on social media. While I take the survey, I would now like to express my gratitude to everybody who has joined this talk with your presence and your appreciation. And I hope to see an interactive session. One question from one person can help many, many people and many, many families. I also extend my gratitude to our respected speaker, Dr. Sandeep Kondepi, for taking.
It's a great opportunity, ma'am. Thank you so much. First of all, I need to thank WishwaTalks for giving me this opportunity, because it's my pleasure to speak about addictions. I think even if it is not an online thing, even if there is an offline presentation anywhere, I'll be really ready to give a talk.
Yes, sure. It is very much needed in every school. It is not acknowledged. Andhra and Telangana especially are in a deep, bad shape in this. I won't be surprised if we are on the same way as Punjab has taken. And none of us are acknowledging this. None of us are acknowledging the problem we are facing. I don't think what Vishwa has done for de-addiction is enough to actually address this situation. This is just a drop in the ocean, what we're doing. This kind of session should actually go to every school, every party, every pub, every home where there are youngsters who are susceptible to such issues. You taking the time to explain it so beautifully is wonderful. Now there's hardly any time, so I'll just talk about the upcoming talks and then we'll immediately move on to our question and answer session. The next upcoming talks are by CA Sudhir VS, lead partner HNA and Company Limited. This is about GST Simplified, GST Framework and its issues. 7th October 2023, 11 a.m. Then we have another talk by Sadia Hurzuk. I hope I'm pronouncing it right. She's the program manager and psychologist in the organization Alzheimer's and Related Disorder Society of India, ARDSI, Hyderabad Deccan chapter. The topic is going to be dementia, never too early and never too late. 14th October, 11 a.m. Now, coming back, there are a few people who have raised their hands. I will give you all, please unmute yourselves. Abba. Yes. Can you come onto the video if possible?
Hello, ma'am.
Yes.
I am a practicing de-addiction counselor since last 25 years.
Would you be able to start your video?
Good morning, ma'am.
Yeah.
I am a practitioner de-addiction counselor since last 25 years. And actually, I am developing myself for more age-related issues also, working for adolescent and young ones for de-addiction management as well as doing family therapy and sobriety management through holistic platform. I wanted to ask you one question from Dr. Sandeep Pandit. Many a time I have gone through so many persons. So once they are in chronic state or totally dependent on some sort of addiction, most of the time they prefer cocktail addiction. So what is the etiology in our brain? So one thing is not able to satisfy ourselves. So people are switching over other. Many a times when after this de-addiction therapy, we go for follow-up. So people are taking the medicine as well as they are trying on other substances. For example, he has given up alcohol, so he will be trying tobacco, or he will be trying some sort of pan or gutka or khani. So some supplement, the brain needs some supplement. What is the etiology of our brain functioning under this switching over different addictions?
So
Please.
it's exactly what, thank you, ma'am. Exactly what you have said is correct. Once they stop one substance, they try to shift to another substance. That is common because they need the dopamine deficit to be occupied with something. So one thing in addiction treatment, definitely medication is helpful. Second thing is counseling definitely helps. Third thing, giving them support and breaking the stigma, not labeling them as addict, treating them as people with normal disease. So people will come forward for the treatment, giving them proper support, and family counseling, family support is very important, as you said, because it plays a core part in the treatment. So the family support is very important. And as you said, once they're across, they're shifting from one substance to substance. That's what I'm telling. The reward is hijacked by the substance. So again, you need to get addicted with some healthy behavior to hijack it back. So you need, so for example, I saw many patients, my patient, he got addicted to preparing pizzas. He got addicted to swimming. He got addicted to gym. One of my patients got addicted to dancing. So now they say that once I dance, I'm getting more dopamine than what that I was getting from the drug. So you need to make your dopamine deficit normal by doing things which increases dopamine, and these things should be in a natural and healthy way. So you
One
need
thing more.
please.
One thing more. You might be laughing at me, particularly in spouse therapy. Many a times, this spouse and particular family awareness, it is to be dealt very from the grassroots, because family, they lost their confidence in the patient.
Yes,
So
yes,
it's a very big issue. And
yes,
secondly,
yes,
there is one thing, as you told about that people start from a little bit expensive or Johnny Walker or for some teachers and some, but many a times they are acclimatized to this country liquor also.
yes,
So
yes,
is
yes.
there any difference in the metabolic or symptomatic response to the taking this? Because it is not safe, but people prefer it in long term.
Yeah, because the country liquor and the man-made liquor has no regulations. There are a lot of impurities in it. For example, if you see the natural natural toddy is safer, but the man-made toddy which you get in the toddy shop is mixed with benzodiazepines, sleeping pills. They mix sleeping pills in the toddy to get the similar kick. So it is very risky. There is a high chance of withdrawal symptoms and even life-threatening withdrawal symptoms like seizures, and also they go into delirium. It is very hard to treat. The first part, the difference is mainly the treatment part. The withdrawal symptoms are very severe, and we need to react promptly and aptly for the man-made liquor or the local toddy.
And that is very fatal many a times. We have gone
Yes,
through
yes,
some
yes, ma'am.
deaths
Yes,
also in such cases. Thank you, sir. It was very nice. I will like to connect with you in future also.
definitely, definitely, ma'am. Right.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. So kind of.
Sir, I'm asking you a very a question which may not be appreciated by some. Why are our governments depending on selling alcohol, especially if you have said that this alcohol being sold today is not toddy and it is added with sleeping pills? Why is an entire generation, because today at least 70% of the men in the villages are addicted to alcoholism. How is it that such well-educated, upcoming states which have been role models for the entire country today, like Telangana and Andhra, why are the governments depending on alcohol, allowing 70% of the men in the villages become dependent on alcohol, ensuring an entire generation and their families are devastated?
Yes. So when it comes to crime and politics, ma'am, that's man invented everything. Man experienced everything. Now we say this is not good. This is, for example, if you take cannabis, cannabis is there approximately from 10,000 years in Vedas. But now we say it is harmful, it is not harmful. So people are getting confused. One thing is that it is definitely alcohol, tobacco is the highest revenue for the entire country. So, but as you said, non-regulated alcohol should be stopped immediately. And we can't change the law, or we can't change the things, how people react and how people accept substances, but we need to create awareness, and we need the treatment approach, the access to treatment. If we do, at least we can do the harm reduction. So the already harm has happened. So if we create awareness now, at least we can start doing the harm reduction.
So one, you're advising there should be regulated alcohol. In fact, I've been hearing there should be regulated drugs also, because there are different kinds of drugs. Some are very addictive and some are normal. And there are parts of the world where certain kinds of drugs are...
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Yes, to continue that, see how much government do, how much we try to prevent, how much we do. Man is the most intelligent mammal on this earth. If you stop one thing, I will invent another thing. If you stop cannabis, I will do synthetic cannabis. You stop synthetic cannabis, I will do laboratory cannabis. So this is not going to stop, ma'am. In my perspective, we can't stop this, but definitely we all should try to stop this. Telangana government, as I'm part of the Narcotic Drug Psychotropic Act, along with the Telangana government, I'm working, ma'am. They're doing vigorous work to stop cannabis in Telangana. They're doing a very good job. But see, like now the synthetic cannabis is into the market. You can prepare cannabis in your balcony, in your lab. You can grow cannabis. No, it comes in an oil. Nobody can find out. Now they caught the oil. Now it is coming in a capsule, like a medical crocin tablet. So it's very hard even for the government to take regulations and stop all these things. But definitely, as you said, we have to do some strict guidelines to stop the illegal market or the black market.
There is a specific question I'm asking. The question is, I understand there are various different kinds of drugs. So I want you to help me understand what are the various different drugs in the market, point one. Point two, which of them can be legalized, which of them cannot be legalized, and why?
In India, the legalization is alcohol, smoking, which comes under legal drugs. Smoking, tobacco chewing or smoking, and alcohol are the legal drugs. And in few states, bhang, which is made from cannabis leaves, is legal, as we take it on Holi. On the occasion of Holi, they take the bhang, mita or the bhang liquor. These things are legal. And the things which are made illegal are cocaine, heroin, meth, crystal, opioids.
You're going too fast. Can you go a little slower?
Sorry.
Cocaine, heroin?
Cocaine, heroin, crystal meth, that is MDMA, ecstasy. And now newer psychotropic drugs, newer psychotropic substances, it comes under NPS. You don't have a name. I can prepare 100 drugs in my lab and I'll release it today. So you take cocaine, I'll change the molecule, ma'am. I'll change the molecule. I'll make it cocaine. Yes. It is called coke. Yes. I invented it today. So this is coming into market. Now synthetic drugs, you can see cannabis in a spray. They spray on the cigarette and they smoke it. How? So the trend has changed. The people now come with laboratory drugs and also prescription drugs. Prescription drugs includes the painkillers, anesthetics, and sleeping pills. So prescription drugs, hard drugs, legal drugs. Legal drugs in India are alcohol, bhang in some states, and chewing tobacco is legal. These are not made legal by the government, ma'am. This is legal since many years. It is from our culture. We invented that. So the tobacco is in culture.
Okay. There is a question by Ms. Ruchi. I think you're unmuted. Can you, if possible, come on video and ask your question?
Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon, Sandeep ji.
Yeah.
I don't have any particular question from Dr. Sandeep ji because आज जितना भी मैं ठीक हूँ, जो मेरे reason है मेरी sobriety का is only Dr. Sandeep, and I really want to thank WishwaTalks for organizing this thing. That's all. I would not like to take too much of time. Thank you. Thank you, Sandeep ji.
Thank you, Ruchi. Right.
So coming back to my question again, you said alcohol is and cigarettes and toddy are legal. However, cocaine, heroin, crystal meth, and new psychotic drugs, these are illegal. Is there anything in these items which are illegal? What is it? Marijuana? I mean, I seriously don't understand drugs, so you need to. What is marijuana?
Marijuana, weed, ganja, grass, cannabis, everything is the same, ma'am. These are the street.
Weed, ganja.
Marijuana, weed, cannabis, ganja, grass, green. There are different words. Pot. These are the street names, but cannabis, marijuana are the legal terms. It is illegal in India completely now.
Do you think it should be made legal?
Definitely, it will be made legal in the coming future.
Because
it's not about smoking cannabis. I'm not telling. See, ma'am, one thing we have to understand: everything has its advantages and disadvantages.
I'm with you totally.
I'm just explaining. Even if you take cocaine, it has its advantages and disadvantages. It is we who should decide whether we have to go to it or we should not go it, whether it is legal or illegal. When it takes cannabis, there are many medical benefits from cannabis, but not from smoking cannabis. Smoking cannabis will increase a chemical called THC in the brain, which gives the high. That's why we smoke. But the medical properties of the cannabis, definitely there are benefits. For example, now chronic seizures, chronic pain, HIV weight loss, and cancers in carcinomas, not to treat the carcinomas, but to treat the pain. Medical cannabis is being legalized in many countries. So now India, also in Asia, also many countries are in debate to legalize cannabis, but the medical cannabis, the regulated cannabis, the beneficial cannabis. So beneficial cannabis, you can't become an addict because it will not give you the high. But the cannabis which currently we are taking throughout the world is synthetic, adulterated, and with more THC. If you take THC 20 years, 15 years back, THC is a chemical which decides your dopamine. THC is a chemical with which you get addicted in cannabis. THC percentage was around 0.5 to 1% 15 years back. 20 years back, the Rushi, jo Himalayas mein, they take cannabis, na ganja, it was 0.5 to 1. Now the cannabis which you are getting in market is 25 times potent than the older THC. So we made it more potent to drag more people, to make it more addicted, to make it more high.
The point. So in the 70s, it was the US forced the UN to ban this in several countries.
I am
Shan,
not.
we can't
it's
hear
not
you.
audible.
Your voice is not audible.
Okay, just am I audible now?
Yes.
Yes, ma'am. So in the 1970s, the US forced the UN to ban cannabis in several countries, including India. And 30 years later, US has actually
capitalized on it. They have legalized it for recreational purposes. They have also created hybrids that create a lot of dependency chemically. And now we are basically, we burnt most of our natural resources, and now even hybrids are being produced in India. There are people selling adulterated things everywhere in the country. So definitely certain form of regularization or regulations would be required to counter cannabis. I mean, US is already promoting it in various different forms. We are still stuck up with the notion that, okay, it's bad because it was banned. The people who banned it have legalized it already.
And why have they legalized it?
For medical research and for medical purposes. I mean,
Everything drug has been studied by FDA and CE, Europe, Canadian government, everybody. They're researching on cannabis, and they're definitely finding some good properties with cannabis. It's not only with cannabis, ma'am. As I said, with every drug, there is a minimal advantage. But what is that advantage? How we can regularize it, how we can make it non-addictive is more important. So as I said, if now even FDA is trying to do research on crystal meth, the methamphetamine, which is a stimulant. So they're trying the stimulant in people who are depressed. But it not comes as powder, which you inject as a drug addict, but it comes as a capsule, which you take.
Okay, Mr. Shmel, you're unmute. You need to unmute yourself to ask your question. Yes.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, I want to ask you about social aspects of addictions. I want to ask you if we need to see a direct connection between addiction and phenomena of poverty, social inequality, social problems, and very maybe addiction this more social problem and less medical.
Yeah. So to give a gist, definitely social problems, the social environment, the childhood history, the culture, the stress during the childhood, the access to the substance, all these things are social factors. Even the most important factor, a risk factor, is discrimination. So usually once the community is discriminated, or one group of people are discriminated, for example, a gay culture, lesbian culture, or transgender culture, or they are more prone into addictions and more prone for suicides. So all the social factors plays a role. The social factors, the psychological factors plays a role till you try it. Once you try it and get attached to it, then the changes in the brain takes place. So it is equally important, the social factors. That's why addiction is called biopsychosocial model. The social factors, psychological factors, biological factors, all together play a role. Thank you.
Is your question answered, Mr. Shmel?
Yeah, of course. Thank you very much.
All right. So the next question is from Rashidar. We will not be giving, Mr. Rashidar, we will not be giving certificates for the WishwaTalks. It doesn't work because this is more a discussion, a talk. It is not something where we evaluate what you have understood, or no examinations are conducted, so it's not possible. Mr. Priya, people just don't know why they are having drugs. They're just having. The session was very good. Okay. Tokala, Mr. Tokala Satish, will you please unmute yourself? Yeah.
Hello.
And if possible, please be on video.
Yeah. Hello, sir. Dr. Sandeep, sir. Hello. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Yes,
Hello,
sir,
sir.
I can hear you. Please.
Yeah. I am attender of your patient, Mr. Toka Rajesham. You might recognize me.
Mm,
He was
yeah.
there in a rehab for 2 months actually.
Yeah. చెప్పండి.
యా సార్ అతను ఇప్పుడు రిలాప్స్ అయ్యాడు సార్. రిలాప్స్ అయ్యి మళ్ళీ ఆల్కహాల్ తీసుకుంటున్నాడు. మళ్ళీ ఒక రీహాబ్ లో పెట్టాను. మరి ఏంటి ఎట్లా చేద్దాం ఫర్దర్ గా?
See, that's what I'm saying కదా. See, addiction లో relapse is very common. When relapse is common in me, నేను ఎంత డైట్ చేద్దాం అనుకున్నా నేను బింజ్ ఈటింగ్ సడన్ గా చేస్తాను. సో దట్ ఈస్ ద రిలాప్స్ టు మై డైట్. నేను ఎక్సర్సైజ్ ఎంత టఫ్ గా చేద్దాం అనుకున్నా కొన్ని రోజులు నేను స్కిప్ చేస్తాను, మళ్ళీ ఐ గెట్ రిలాప్స్. హ్యూమన్ బీయింగ్ హ్యావ్ ఎ టెండెన్సీ టు రిలాప్స్. డయాబెటీస్, హైపర్ టెన్షన్ మనం ఎలా ట్రీట్ చేస్తున్నామో లైఫ్ లాంగ్ ఈ రిలాప్స్ అనేది అడిక్షన్ లో చాలా కామన్. సో రిలాప్స్ వచ్చింది అని మనం వదిలేస్తే హీల్ బికమ్ మోర్ అడిక్టెడ్ అండ్ హీ విల్ హార్మ్ హిస్ హెల్త్. సో అడిక్షన్ లో ద ఫస్ట్ లా ఇస్ అట్లీస్ట్ హార్మ్ రిడక్షన్. మనం రిలాప్స్ అయిందని వదిలేకుండా we need to catch him. See, I definitely as family you'll be stressed out, ఫైనాన్షియల్ బర్డన్ అవుతుంటుంది, ఎన్నిసార్లు పెట్టినా మళ్ళీ డ్రింక్ చేస్తున్నాడు అనే థింగ్ కి వస్తారు. ఐ అండర్స్టాండ్ ఆల్ దోస్ కన్సర్న్స్, బట్ డెఫినెట్లీ ఫైనల్లీ వీ హ్యావ్ టు హెల్ప్ హిమ్ టు కమ్ అవుట్ ఆఫ్ ఇట్.
ఓకే సార్, అతను మళ్ళీ రిహాబ్ లో ఉన్నాడు సార్. యాక్చువల్లీ వేరే రిహాబ్ లో పెట్టాము.
యా
ఇంకొక
యా
6 months వరకు అట్లనే ఉంచుదాం అనుకుంటున్నాను సార్. కొంచెం అది ఫైనాన్షియల్ గా మాకు అఫోర్డబుల్ ఉంది. ఒక 6 months వరకు ఉంచుదాం అనుకుంటున్నాం. వాట్ యు సజెస్ట్ లైక్?
See, it's not about the time అండి. It is just leaving him in rehab is not a point. మళ్ళీ తను బయటకు వెళ్ళిన తర్వాత ఏ సొసైటీలో ఉంటాడు, ఆయన వర్క్ ఏంటి, ఆయన ఆక్యుపేషన్ ఏంటి, ఆయన ఫ్యామిలీ సపోర్ట్ ఎంత ఉంది, అలోన్ గా ఉంటాడా లేదా, ఆయన జాబ్ ఏంటి, అవన్నీ కూడా మనం తీసుకోవాలి. పుట్టింగ్ ఇన్ రీహాబ్ abstinence వస్తుంది, ట్రీట్మెంట్ వస్తుంది, వెరీ గుడ్. బట్ గోయింగ్ అవుట్ there should be external community support kuda. Malli బయటకు వచ్చిన తర్వాత again if he's lazy, not doing work, no family support, wife tanaki problems unnai, edo oka disturbances vastundi, malli there is a high chance of getting relapse. Definitely medication will help, but the society and the community kuda change cheyali.
Okay sir, thank you sir.
Yeah, thank you.
Question is from Mr. Vamsi Krishna. There will be very thin line between addictive and non-addictive, often difficult to assess. So are there any red flags that it is swinging towards addiction?
So as I said, the criteria for addiction is, see, everyone has some habits we do it routinely. All the habits kuda manaki dopamine pathway paina act avutayi and increases dopamine. In addiction em avutundi ante there are changes in the brain, like for example tolerance, which increases the receptors and you drink more. Once you drink more, you can't stop it. Once you try to stop, you'll have withdrawal symptoms. Once you have withdrawal symptoms, you drink to reduce the withdrawal symptoms. After that, you'll have a severe urge. And irrespective of your social, family, occupational, society problems, you will drink. You lose control how much you drink and what you are drinking. And there is a lot of salience to provided, and a survival low, you replace the natural rewards with addiction. So addiction becomes your survival. So that is how a habit and addiction you can differentiate. See, once you are doing a habit, if it is doing good to you in and around A to Z anni manche chestundi ante, then it is okay. Few people are addicted to gym and they'll bear that pain, they'll bear that stress, and they go to gym daily. So they're addicted to gym. That definitely is good. But in chemicals, it is different. So you usually, the red flags నేను చెప్పాను కదా, the tolerance, withdrawal, salience, irrespective of harm, ఇవన్నీ వస్తాయి. If you generally see in children who are getting addicted, decrease in academic performance, dropout from school, irregular to school, late night spending, more time with friends, alone in the room, hiding something, abnormal behavior, sudden increase in anger, irritability, all these things you can take it as red flags for a child to you being using some drug or something. Yeah.
Excellent, Andy. So how does a family, an Indian family, address this issue? They see these symptoms, but it is socially taboo to talk about it. Point one. Point two, the other family members don't even talk about it. They push it under the carpet. They don't acknowledge it when it is addressable. And this is not, these kind of talks are not available in the drawing rooms of many. So how does somebody address this?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. We have to create an awareness that addiction is as common as diabetes. Now, if you take 5 people in the society, one is getting addicted. So it is say as common as diabetes, and it is a disease. It has treatment. అని మనం అవేర్నెస్ క్రియేట్ చేయాలి. సెకండ్ థింగ్ ఇస్ at least if the parent identifies something, don't punish him or argue with him. Sit down, ask, support, and talk with him. Definitely he will tell you something. Then you can ఒకసారి once the client is cooperating with the parent, definitely they can approach the treatment source. Then definitely వాళ్ళు in detail assessment అవన్నీ చేస్తారు. ఫస్ట్ యూ హ్యావ్ టు బ్రేక్ దిస్ టాబూ అండ్ స్టిగ్మా మ్యామ్. లైక్ మనం ఫీవర్ వస్తే ఎంత తొందరగా వెళ్ళి క్రోసిన్ అజిత్రోమైసిన్ వేసుకుంటున్నామో ఈ వైరల్ ఫీవర్ కి, అంతే తొందరగా there is definitive treatment. They have to approach the health system.
Done. Next question is from Ashish Singh. Please. Yes.
Thank you, ma'am. First of all, good afternoon, everyone. And I would like to thank Dr. Sandeep and the whole Wishwa team for organizing this wonderful talk. And you have explained it very wonderfully. I would like to give a brief introduction about myself. Am I audible?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So I'm Ashish Singh from Haryana. I'm a PhD neuroscience student at National Brain Research Center, Manesar, Haryana, specifically working on the non-substance addiction. And I was really engaged in your discussion. It was really explained very well. So I have a series of questions. So I should go sequentially, I think.
Yeah.
So first thing, as you explained it wonderfully, the treatment, explained the addiction. I would like to ask you some treatments which are available for addicts.
Sure, sir. So the first thing is, as I said, a person who is in addiction, they have severe withdrawal symptoms. The first part in your treatment is supporting him. Don't label him. Treat him as a normal patient. Then he will open up and tell everything. And next is the treating the withdrawal symptoms. The withdrawal symptoms is that the receptors are becoming hyperactive. So you need to give medications to settle down the receptors. So there are advanced medications for each and every drug profile. There is a detox medication. We call it detox. So the first, once patient gets admitted or on the OP basis, we do the detox treatment. Once the detox treatment is done, he will accept treatment. Most of the patients, they love to quit the substance, but they don't know how to quit, and they have the fear of quitting because of the withdrawal symptoms. So if you are successful in treating withdrawal symptoms, you have done 80%. Next 20% is relapse prevention. So next relapse prevention is 20%. What you do is, there are advanced drugs now. For example, naltrexone is for alcohol, acamprosate is for alcohol, disulfiram is for alcohol. For smoking, there is varenicline. There are different drugs for different profile of substances. You start the relapse prevention drugs, which will reduce the risk of relapse in the patient. So, and also we have advanced neuromodulation techniques for example, in NIMHANS, AIMS, Delhi, and in Asha Hospital, Banjara Hills, we have a separate mission called transmagnetic stimulation, which is the advanced technique, non-invasive, no side effects. Each session is 20 minutes. And this, once you give this transmagnetic stimulation, we select the brain part which is hyperactive or which is hypoactive. And if it is hypoactive, we increase the activity. If it is hyperactive, we decrease the activity. So there are now FDA approved protocols for depression, OCD, and smoking. And in the near future, the protocols will come for everything. We have CE protocols, European protocols for alcohol also. We are practicing on daily basis. This transmagnetic stimulation, the magnetic wave goes into the brain and will act on the part for craving, the insula, the midbrain. So this is the neuromodulation medication. And the next important part is counseling. Counseling both the patient and the family. And the most important part after discharge is follow-up. The patients who are coming for follow-up are in contact with the doctor, following a routine, not skipping the medication. They have a good family support. They have a job for their food, water, shelter, or some routine or motivating thing. Usually there is a less chance of relapse. So we, even after discharge, The biggest part is following the patient, following the client. You need to make a call. They will not come. As a doctor, I make call, I message them. There is a feedback call we do, and we'll ask the patient to come back. And that is the routine thing we do.
Okay, that's really nice explanation, sir, and
Yeah.
I'm really glad.
Yeah.
But I have one another question on the particular answer. Like as you mentioned about the few medications, and it is a kind of perception in my mind, or kind of perception in society as well. These medication itself target these dopamine receptors in our brain. So somehow they also supply these dopamine neurotransmitters in our brain. So
Yes, sir. See, that's what I'm saying. For even though it's supplying the dopamine, for example, for diabetes, you give insulin because the insulin is low in your blood and you're supplying insulin. Now in addiction, something is happening. Either I have to decrease it or increase it. There is no harm. For example, nicotine replacement therapy has been highly successful for smokers. You're supplying the same nicotine, but you're reducing 7,000 chemicals in a cigarette. Each cigarette smoke has 7,000 chemicals, and the wonderful chemical which is helpful is only nicotine. All other chemicals are carcinogenic. So by supplying the nicotine, you're giving the nicotine to your brain, but you're making him addicted to nicotine. But you're reducing the 6,999 carcinogenic chemicals in your brain, which kills you. So harm reduction is the baseline or the bottom line for pharmacotherapy. It is you reduce the harm in them first, bring them back to the society, help them. Yeah.
Thank you. As ma'am asked about legalized drugs in the conversation to you, I would also bring the point of that mobiles as the most legalized drug currently.
Most legalized. So 24/7 dopamine is your iPhone.
Yes. So I would like you to bring some more insights upon this known substance addiction perspective. Like I'm specifically working in that, so I would like you to
non-substance addiction, right?
Like mobile and all those behavioral addiction.
See, the behavioral addiction, gambling, porn, internet, gaming, all these things also act on the same reward pathway, the mesolimbic pathway, and increase the dopamine. So there is nothing different. This is increasing dopamine, that is increasing the dopamine, but the level of dopamine, how it is increasing, when it is increasing, it is different. Now we are trying to find out substrates and receptors for gambling. In the near future, we'll get a very good medication for gambling. Now the current medication also is, we are trying naltrexone and fluoxetine, because gambling is considered as a compulsive disorder. I have that compulsion to gamble. So we are giving drugs to control this impulsivity and compulsivity in gambling. The fluoxetine will reduce this impulsivity and compulsivity. And we are having good success rates, both in pharmacotherapy and also psychological therapies for gambling.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sir, as you told, you are a counselor as well. So do you have the patients of mobile addictions and all those things? Do you face...
See, after COVID, all the patients from addictions, children, when the transfer of books to iPad, there is a lot of gaming addictions and internet addictions we see on daily basis. So we see, the main thing is without technology, we can't live.
Yep.
Okay, I can't live. Without this laptop, I can't conduct this Zoom meeting. Without the phone, I can't contact WishwaTalks. Anything is not possible, practically not possible. But how much we use, how much it is helping us, how much we are taking it, and how much we have to measure it. In the same way, whether we are increasing the behavior time, whether when we are reducing the behavior, we are having discomfort, whether making the behavior or the gambling or gaming as a priority, whether I'm losing the control of gambling or gaming, or whether irrespective of harm, though it is causing me some harm, I'm using it. We need to see the checklist of addictions for behavioral disorders. And there is there's a concept called dopamine detox. So we are addicted to dopamine, right? Now the theory now in the Western world and even in India, now it's being practiced. Dopamine detox is nothing but you list out the 10 pleasurable things in your life now. Okay? Your iPhone, your KFC, your AC, your comforts, everything. You list out the top 10 things in your life and stop all these top 10 things for 2 days in a week. Saturday and Sunday, don't use phone and laptops, car, nothing. You should go walking. You should not eat KFC. You should eat the natural organic things. So you are giving the brain some time to regenerate. Don't blindly dependent on dopamine. I will detox the dopamine. I'll reduce dopamine for 2 days a week. And if you practice this, your brain will be healthy.
Yes, sir. So the other thing is that, as you mentioned about the psychological characterization of addiction, like we categorize people who are addict or who are not. You are just using things based on psychological tests. So it's something like criterias, and we are filling them. Is there any concrete method of identifying who are addict and who are not addict? Who are just
that's what I'm saying. No, it's not about only the criteria. The physical symptoms you have with withdrawals, like the withdrawal symptoms are very horrible. If you are having withdrawal symptoms, you're definitely addicted to the substance. And second thing, if it's just an habit, it will not cause family problems. It will not cause financial problems. It will not cause personal problems. It will not cause occupational problems. It will not cause your behavioral problems. It will not cause aggression. It will not cause anything. But addiction, you can definitely, by the time the client comes, he comes with all these problems. So there's definitely a big demarcation between habit and addiction. It's not, and as you said, if at all you want some legalized test for addiction, you can go for a PET scan or fMRI, which is too costly. But as technology develops, even the scan prices will come down. We'll definitely have a PET scan and fMRI. If you see in the addicted brain, fMRI shows hyperactivity of the central lobe.
Yes, sir.
Because it is the dopamine lobe, and it shows decreased activity in frontal lobe, because you lose the judgment and decision making capacity in addictions.
We are also using this PET and fMRI for scanning those addicts. But
and now currently in India, we are using it for research, but definitely as future, there should be some proven evidence. The evidence that it comes, I think it will come into the market for clinical use also.
Recruitment of the patient subjects, because at recruitment stage we can't use them. We can use the identified patients only. So that's why I asked the question. Is there any so we can recruit better? Also, sir, I would like to just mention at the end that we are like from the behalf of NBRC, National Brain Research Center, as we are working on non-substance addiction. So we would like to collaborate with the people professionals working in this field. So
definitely.
I will mail you as well.
Yeah. I my number, my personal number, and also the number for the clinical, the hospital appointment numbers. I think I gave Trishant to distribute it in the chat box.
It's been shared in the chat, sir.
Yeah.
Good. Thank you so much, sir. It's really humble response from your side. That's so nice.
Thank you, Ashish. That was a long questions, but some of them are very pertinent. So, yes. Our next question is from Mr. Praveen K. If possible, please come on video.
Good afternoon, everyone. And Dr. Sandeep, it was a wonderful session. There's a lot that I learned. At the outset, let me tell you that I'm a person who's come out of addiction.
That's really great, sir.
Yeah, I was.
Hearty congratulations.
Thank you so much. All the grace of God.
So I always tell, sir, the happiness which you get, the highest dopamine which you get is quitting addiction. It's not from addiction. Once you stop addiction, you are the happiest person on this earth.
Correct. So that's the kick I get in life now. If I compare it with what I was getting earlier, that's nothing. This is so much more better, because in every area of my life, I am absolutely going fantastic. And I'm from Hyderabad. And now last 12 years, I have been sober.
Very good, sir.
I do not touch alcohol in any form. Even if it is cough syrup, there is alcohol, I will ask the pharmacist to give me a non-alcoholic cough syrup. I don't touch these so-called rum cakes or wine cakes or anything like that. I check before I pick up that particular item to consume. Now, I had almost 30 years of work experience. I have given up on working, and now I'm a certified life coach and a certified emotional intelligence coach. So I go to the rehab and I do counseling over there for alcoholics.
Definitely, sir. Talks from people who are already stopped will mean a lot for the patients.
Exactly. So I see that all those days of mine comes to life when I meet an alcoholic or a drug addict, because the kind of life, as you said, the pleasure turning to pain, I thought it was a lifestyle when I started drinking. You know, this gave me a high. I thought I was a hero, and slowly, slowly, it made me a zero. You know, in every area of my life was beaten, and the pain that I went through was something different. Dr. G, one question I wanted to ask is, see, in terms of all these drugs or addictions are all chemicals. Now, if we say in terms of alcohol, alcohol is what we are putting into our digestive system. Now, is there a metabolic reaction that makes alcohol, as we put it inside, that it breaks down and there is something called as an acetone, which creates the phenomenon of craving, and then the mind takes over after that?
So alcohol breaks down, ethanol breaks down to acetaldehyde, sir. From acetaldehyde, it breaks down into Krebs cycle to acetic acid. So usually alcohol is metabolized in this way. That even now the tablet, the disulfiram tablet, will inhibit the aldehyde dehydrogenase. So it will stop the conversion of acetaldehyde to acetate. So once the acetaldehyde increases in your body, you'll have immense withdrawal symptoms. You'll have the discomfort with the withdrawal symptoms. Yeah.
So what I do is I try to bring about a change in their thinking. You know, the old emotions, attitudes, ideas, and behavior, we try to make them change after explaining the disease concept and what kind of harm it has done to the life. So I explain my own story to them. So when I tell them, they are able to identify.
Yes. So they'll connect, sir. I saw them once. When a person from addiction speaks, they get connected to the topic.
Correct. So I do that, and that it becomes a little more easier. And as you very rightly said, speaking to the family also, explaining the disease concept, what happens, the family thinks that we are doing it willfully, we are wanting to hurt them, we are wanting our own selfish motives to come in. But when we explain to the family that this is a disease concept and this is how you need to cooperate with the, with the patient, and these are all the kind of symptoms that he shows, the family becomes aware. Because after he goes out of the rehab, most of them who come back tell me one common thing. In Telugu, they say, "Inti kada elnanka intlo vallu nannu guchutunnaru, sir. They are poking me in my heart. They are doubting me. They are looking at my face as though I had drunk again and come, even if I didn't drink." So these are the things which are the triggers.
Yes.
These triggers again make him go out in anger, pick up a drink.
So yes, sir. As rightly said, the treatment should be holistic, like from support, doctor, medication, counseling, family, community, even spirituality.
Exactly.
Even spirituality and lifestyle changes after discharge, even during the admission, are very, very important. We have to bring him back to the normal society where he can live like normal individuals, like everyone.
Exactly. Now, when he's touched on spirituality, that is such a high concept over here, where I lost all my morals. I lost all ethics, values, speaking lies, manipulating, stealing things from the house to get the money for a drink, doing
yes, sir.
all
As I
these kind of
explained,
things.
When the frontal lobe activity comes down, we do all these things. And evidently, and scientific research also says that spirituality is the most important trainable thing, which can be trained to a person, which can be learned behavior to make the frontal lobe active.
Absolutely.
Can I just ask you? You said treatment should be whole. That is family, counselor, and what were the other things you said? Spirituality.
Doctor, medication, counselor, family, community, spirituality, lifestyle changes.
Responsibilities.
Yeah.
Okay. Next, we'll go to the next question. We have Harita. Can you please come on, unmute yourself?
I think we need to wrap up, ma'am.
Yes, we need to wrap up. Please take just 1 minute, please.
I think I'll definitely come back with one more session. I'm really happy. We can just have one.
Can I ask my question, sir?
Yeah, please.
Sir, actually, when I have seen addiction, most of the talk has gone on drug addiction. But as a parent of teenage daughter, I have my daughter suffering from trichotillomania, hair pulling disorder. Is it also an addiction?
No, ma'am. So there's a ఒక చిన్న line undi. Like for example, trichotillomania is the impulse to pull the hair. So
But,
addiction is
we
also
do-
an impulse to take the substance. But trichotillomania lo ఏమవుతుంది అంటే first they have the, in addiction, it's like first they want the pleasure, so they have that impulse to do. In trichotillomania lo ఏంటంటే first they have the discomfort, if they pull they have the pleasure. It's the reverse.
మరి దీన్ని ఎలా సాల్వ్ చేయాలి సార్?
ట్రైకోటిలోమానియా కి డెఫినెట్లీ మెడికల్ మేనేజ్మెంట్, కౌన్సిలింగ్ ట్రైకోటిలోమానియా కి ఎఫెక్ట్ వర్క్ కావదు, ఫ్యామిలీ
I
వర్క్
have
కాదు.
been trying it since 3 years, sir. But as a parent,
I
am
understand,
feeling
Andy, but the
little-
medication part, what she is using, how she is using, we can definitely see. You can contact me, Andy. I will definitely help you with the medication
sir,
part.
I will definitely come to you, sir, because as it is Hyderabad.
Yeah, but
maybe-
trichotillomania,
but I have been,
I can bet you it is definitely treatable.
Okay, sir. నేను డెఫినెట్ గా మిమ్మల్ని వచ్చి కలుస్తాను.
Sure,
Because
sure,
it is
Andy, sure.
becoming very pathetic to
I understand,
face her
I
day by
understand,
day.
I understand.
So, sir, can you just give me the number, because I didn't.
Coordinate.
Yeah,
There's
it's been shared in the chat.
Chat box lo appointment
Chat box.
number.
నేను వచ్చి కలుస్తాను, sir. Thank you.
Right, and right, and
Thank you.
Last question from Divya.
Yes,
And
last one. Very.
Yeah, hello. Am I audible?
yes.
Yeah. Okay, I'm from Maharashtra, and basically I'm a career counselor. So I am been to in a school counseling. So I have seen the students who are more addicted to the relationship. Okay, so like they are not able to concentrate on their studies, their futures, but they are more addicted to the thing like we call as a puppy attraction, we call as them a teenager attractions and all. They're getting attracted to that thing. Okay, so how we can, give them some good, suggestion to go for to release a good dopamine in their brain, that they will be able to connect it and they will be not going into this bad state.
Yeah.
Because after this, of course, when they go to that state now, if they don't get that things, they go into a very another thing like college drugs. They start taking MD and everything. They get addicted with all these things.
Yeah. So as you said, you are a school counselor, ma'am. You are the first step to prevent addiction, because it starts from the schooling age itself. You need to create awareness. You are the most important pillar for the treatment. For the assessment part, say, as you said, addicting to relations, so morely counseling plays an important role. And for the activities, natural activities which increase in dopamine, scientifically, I'll tell few things, ma'am. General exercise, swimming, walking, staying in sun for 5 minutes, early morning sun, taking a cold water shower, smiling, helping others, helping the poor, hugging, the value of family, and art, drawing, music, dance, singing, all these things naturally increase dopamine. So you need to inoculate all the naturally increasing dopamine into them. At the same time, on the parallel
guys,
side,
my earphones are down.
Yeah. Counseling them is the most important thing.
Okay.
All right.
Sure. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Wonderful session. Sandeep ji, you were really patient with our question and answers.
No, ma'am.
I've never seen
my
this.
pleasure.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
See you next week.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for your time. We'll see you very soon.
Yeah. Thank you.
To all the audience members, please do not forget to subscribe to WishwaTalks. Get alerts on every new and exciting talk exclusive event and access to the Wishwa community. Follow us on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, or LinkedIn for future updates. If you'd like to contact Dr. Sandeep, the contact is in the chat box. Please reach out to us if you have any doubts. Thank you so much.
Room.